going on, y'all? Welcome to the world according to Eric with the baddest on the block, Eric Devante. And today we are doing another edition of Tell Me About It. Conversations with Hope Giselle, my good sis, who's looking damn good.
I be trying.
Is it a red bottom stiletto? For clarity.
It's a red bottom Pigalle 100.
Okay. Oh, she's nasty. Real nasty. Okay. Hope is an author, an organizer, an artivist. Yes. But you gotta explain to me, because you are the first I've ever heard coin that term.
Really?
First.
So I actually got it, I don't like to say stole, but I actually got it. It was an inspired term from my sister Mila Jam. She's an artist out of New York City.
Okay.
And so artivism is basically using the thing that you love, like your art, your creative space, right, to get the message across around Black lives, trans lives, like whatever your thing is. But it's taking your art and then making it a part of the movement.
Okay, I love that. Mm-hmm. That's so good. Let me see if I can cultivate
I
that
don't know, Mila, I don't know if she defined it that way, but I saw her use the word and then I created my own definition.
You gotta make it applicable to you.
Right. But thank you, Mila. Shouts out to Mila Jam.
I love me some Hope. We met back in, I want to say 2016, 17?
17.
And it was at an APLA, gay, black leadership group. And Hope came through dropping gems for the kids. And I'll never forget that. Do you remember reading one of the girls that came into the room really late? I don't remember what the content, and I'm not going to say no names because you won't sue me before I see my coin. You won't sue me, you won't. But Hope read somebody, they came in, jumped in, I don't remember what we were discussing, and Hope was just like, absolutely not, da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
I don't know who this bitch is, but okay. Notes have been taken. So I've loved you ever since. And I feel like we built a bond. You were the first person, you were my first photography subject.
Yes, and I loved it. Those pictures still live. I mean, you know I still repost them.
You do, which is really gracious because, girl, it was given, what?
Just edits.
Okay, because it was giving a real Nokia flip, but you respect the brand.
No, honestly, those are still some of my favorite pictures. I mean, my body wasn't what I needed it to be, but I think the actual pictures themselves are still some of my favorite pictures. I love my hair in that picture. I love, especially like the ones on the gate, like those fucking heels hurt so bad. But like,
the commitment.
You made me look like how I wanted to look. Sans. You know, we ain't gotta do it right now, but back then I had to. Right. And so, I mean, but I loved it. And honestly, I didn't know that was your first. Maybe I did at the time, but I forgot that was your first one.
Yeah, because you found out I had the camera because I was making videos, but
I did. That was that.
He was like, have you ever taken pictures? I was like, oh no. He was like, you want to take pictures of me? I'm like,
and they were fire. I still repost them. Like, I can go on my page. Like, some of them are still up. Like, every now and then I recycle. So yeah, I love them.
No, I love that. And I love your evolution. Hope is a beautiful woman. I mean, inside and out. Who so happens to be a trans woman as well. So just to give you guys some context, we'll get into that a bit later. But the first thing I wanted to ask you is, who is Hope Giselle? And when I say that, I mean, aside from the reads, the podcasting, the glitz and glam that we see on social media, who is Hope Giselle when the cameras are off and you're your most vulnerable? Who is that?
Oh, okay. She is a hippie.
Okay.
She is barefoot Contessa. She runs around the back. No, seriously, like she is dirty foot, just like runs around on the yoga mat, like writing, like, I don't know, I think people have this idea of who I am based off of like the person that I have to be for social media, and I do say have to be because it's a machine. Social media is a machine, and if you want to make it, no matter what your career, nonprofit, active, whatever it is, like you have to play the game of the machine. So when I'm not playing the game of the machine, I am very much so like very much to myself. If I have a lover, I'm very involved in my lover. And like it's the little things, like the little things make me excited, going to the beach or like unexpected, you know, staycations and stuff like that. So I'm a real minimalist. Like, don't get me wrong, I live for a Louboutin.
I'm about to say.
You know, I live for a Louboutin and a Gucci bag, but like at the same time, like I think if I have to like really choose, and honestly, if I can be real, if it weren't for the things that these things, right, say to other people, I would be really happy in a camper. A nice camper.
Would you really?
A nice camper.
Okay. Hope gives me so much lavish, so I'm really learning with y'all. Like the barefoot Contessa, do you cook? You've never offered me a plate. Cut the cameras. Cut the cameras. Dead ass.
Like, I mean, I do, and I love cooking. Actually, I really do. I love cooking. I'm not a cleaning girl. I'm very much so, this is my chaotic mess, but I know where everything is.
Right.
Kind of vibe, but I love cooking. I love like the whole outdoors moment. Like I really am. Like if I didn't have to get up and do my makeup and my hair, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I feel that.
And I don't.
I give it to women. I mean, there are men out there that do it as well, but like women, I feel like societally feel this pressure to always overperform and over execute. I couldn't. I wore a full face one time and was just like, oh, y'all could go to hell.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
And when it's hot?
Child, I thank God for good skin because like the better that my skin gets, the less that I have to wear. So usually it's just like this area and then everything else is just bare. But like it really depends on the day and it depends on what you're doing because certain like sometimes that bare around doesn't work because the lights are harsh or whatever the case may be. So it's just like women got a whole bunch of shit to think about that men are just like, I got a haircut.
Yeah.
I got a haircut. Yeah. So yeah, that's a thing that does kind of worry me sometimes.
Very much the top bottom dynamic where the top just showers and the bottom is sitting there gutting themselves.
Gutting.
Like tilapia.
For filth.
It's disgusting. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But let me explain to you the purpose of Tell Me About It. So I do this segment in the hopes of inspiring future creators, both young and old, because I feel like a lot of people sit on talents because they don't feel that they don't have this machine behind them. So they're like, it can't happen to me. It can't happen for me the same way it would happen for somebody else. Okay. So I want to teach them that everybody has a gift. Don't sit on it. Execute. And I feel like you have been all over the place, all around the world, and So I feel like you were the perfect person to discuss this with. Period. So what would you say Hope Giselle's main purpose is? Like, what is your main functionality out of all the things you do? What's the overarching theme of it all?
I'm a helper. And I say that very loosely because I help so many different genres of people. And I think that a lot of my influence comes from the fact that my words hit people. Sometimes I just sling them out there and I have no idea who they're for. But like, it's always refreshing to like have in my inbox and somebody's mom is like, oh my God, you taught me something today about my kid. And I was like being completely unreasonable and like listening to your video and hearing about your mom's story, like that helped me. Or like, it's like a 13-year-old kid who's just like, thank you so much for letting me know that I don't have to show up in the world this way or whatever the case may be. And sometimes like it's criticisms. And they are criticisms that are like needed for my own growth. And so sometimes me throwing out my work helps me. And so I think that that's like my main function and my main purpose. I think that if I had to name my goal, it would just be to help the youth. Like I feel like it's not to say that the girls are lost, right? I'm not saying that, you know, the older people are lost.
I'm not even gonna co-sign because I was gonna say although.
All right. But, you know, my goal is like these younger generations of young trans folks, non-binary people, like I want them to not have to do or think the things that we thought growing up, which was that like, you know, cis assumed privilege is like your goal in life, like because it's not, and that we have to be in entertainment to like actually have successful or meaningful lives. Like you can still be a doctor, you can still be that lawyer, you can still be like all of those things that you want to be while being trans. And nobody should be able to take that away from you. Now, if you want to be a ballet dancer, then by all means, goddamn it, do what you need to do. But it's not something that I feel like it has to be thrown or shoved down our backs because we're trans and we only fit in certain areas of society.
Right, yeah. There's so many possible segues that you just created. But I wanted to, speaking of breaking down doors, you were the first trans woman to graduate from Alabama State University with a master's in fine arts and a bachelor's in fine arts? Okay, so I wanted to get some specification. Were you the first with that degree or were you just the first trans woman to graduate? What?
That we know of, right? There might have been a girl who, you know, moved in stealth. But that we know of as a whole, as the entire university, I am the first openly trans woman to graduate from Alabama State University.
When did you graduate? Like your master's degree, when were you done?
Master's was done in 18.
18, okay, so 3 years ago? Math has never been my thing. 3 years ago, that's a crazy concept that you're the first. I mean, bitch, congratulations, point blank.
It was dope because after me, there was another young woman by the name of Desiree, and I believe that Desiree was the second, but even still, it took, I think Desiree graduated last year, so it still took 3 more years. Yeah.
I feel like, what do you think that is? Why do you feel like it was such a gap before you and even after you?
Honestly, because I had known of people saying that there were like trans-esque students before me, but Alabama State, is not and was not a conducive safe space for transgender students. I will say that now, with the help of Dr. Witten and some other like really dope advisors at the school, they've helped to shape it into a space that's becoming a little bit more inclusive for LGBT students as a whole. But when I was going there, like the horror stories that I was hearing, the first ever like attempt at a GSA was shut down because football players came in and ruined their meetings. And that was accepted. It was just one of those things where the gay kids got their meeting ruined and they no longer wanted to congregate. And so the first like attempt at a GSA at the school was like done. And so I came and I did the GSA, and then we wanted to have a benefit concert for AIDS, and I basically did Beyonce and drag. I performed my own Beyonce experience for 2 hours. And
2 hours?
I did an actual Beyonce concert.
Did they pay you?
No.
For the calluses that I know you got on your
I did, like, when I tell you, me and a couple of my other little queen friends and some of the allies, we got together for 2 hours and we did a whole Beyonce set, and we raised $1,300 for the Montgomery AIDS outreach. So that was like our pay. However, the BS behind Alabama State is that there is a certain amount of budget that you have as like a club that the school gives you, right? And everything else is fundraised. And essentially, after the concert, what we realized was that they only gave us like the nice venue and the lighting and all of those things because they knew that we weren't going to be able to foot the bill afterwards. So the Beyonce experience was the first and the only event that I had as a GSA person.
At least you made it stick.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely made our mark on it, but it was one of those things where I understood exactly why queer kids at Alabama State either chose to live in stealth, conform, or go to another school, because the backhanded things that they would do to all the queer students was just whatever. And when they met me, they met their match, because I was not going to just run away with my tail between my legs.
Yeah, that's so all brand for Hope. Like, Hope is such, when I say bad bitch, I say it so respectfully because it encompasses so many different things. It's the confidence, it's the talent, it's the fearlessness. I'm sure there's some fear and some anxiety there, but it's the execution. Like, you don't put fear and hope in the same sentence. It's not synonymous. So, like, I respect you so much, in case I've never told you, because when you be in pigeons with your friends, you don't really be affirming
right.
But like, as we sit here, let me take some time to give you your flowers. But I think that your experience at Alabama State, or the trans experience at Alabama State, may be reflective of what's going on in the world. Like, I feel like just now, LGBT people are now just kind of getting their footing in terms of rights and acknowledgement and things of that sort. And I feel like trans has been like delayed and put off on the back burner, very much like, oh, we'll get to that when we can. We have race issues and all these things. So, I feel like with the world slowly molding, school spaces will slowly get to that point. It sucks that there's like a order of it all.
Facts.
But I think that is the space that we're in. So that leads me to ask you about the Allow Me movement.
Yeah.
First off, the Allow Me movement, where did the inspiration for that come from?
Ooh, she started in high school. Like it was a thing that like I knew senior year of high school, like I wanted to go, because I was one of those kids that watched way too much Degrassi, so like I was preparing myself to be that kid. And so the name did not, I sifted through a bunch of names and I can't even remember the other ones because Allow Me just stuck so well. But I do know that it was something else before Allow Me, and then when I got to college my freshman year, I was like, Allow Me. And it was based off of the idea that I wanted it to be something where it was like a reach back program, like allow me to help you, like I went through this and so now I'm gonna help you, like just allow me sis, like allow me, like welcome yourself into the fold. And essentially it's been so many different things, because when you're creative and you want to do all of these things and you're a multi-hyphenate, like I'm good at so many different, and that's not a horn tutor, it's just like,
no, it's true. It is,
I'm good at a bunch of different things, I feel, and so it's one of those things where Allow Me has been like a place where I wanted to like do this and then that, and then I think that within the last 2 years I've realized that what my real goal is to help the youth. So, and then also help the youth with their voices, because that's the thing that I feel is really muffled. Like, we know that the kids are there, we know that the kids are doing things, but we don't know what they're doing. And a lot of time it's because while they know that they're empowered to like protest and all these other things, like a lot of these kids don't know how to do their own podcast. They don't know how to like write about the things that are happening at their schools. Like even if they want to branch off in different ways, like they don't know how to write about the experiences of like what it means to be a queer person in the law degree program or whatever the case may be. And so Allow Me is really a space where I'm going to help to give these youth like the opportunities that I wish to have been given to me. So it's about raising those funds to make sure that those kids have the materials. And ultimately I want to create like a space, like a multimedia space where the kids can come and record their own shit. They have their own like basically like YouTube spaces for like the popular YouTubers, but it'll be for queer kids of color with a preference on, you know, the trans femme community. But they will be able to come in and do whatever they need, like have spaces like this that look a certain way that they're not like often privy to. And then like scholarship programs, I think one of the first things that we're going to do this year, which I'm super proud of, is that there is a young queer rapper out of Atlanta, and I absolutely love his work. And so we're helping to fund his first video. And those are some of the things that Allow Me is going to do like in the future. So like the young queer podcasters, like we're going to be helping to fund studio time and things like that. So I'm really excited.
I love that. So my understanding of the Allow Me movement is just you allowing kids of the LGBTQIA community to be exposed to people in the fields that they would like to be in, doing what they want to do, letting them know like, hey, you have options. You know, you don't have to necessarily turn to modeling. You don't have to turn to sex work, like you said earlier. You don't have to turn to ballet. Like you have a plethora of options, the same way the rest of us do. So I love that. And I wanted to ask you, who would you say growing up was representative of what you believe the Allow Me movement is? Whether it's a friend, family, or celebrity. Who would you say you saw them and was like, they're letting me know the possibilities are endless?
Growing up, honestly, nobody, and I hate to give the stereotypical answer, but Beyonce. It's one of those things where it wasn't in the same vein, right? Because Beyonce just out here doing like LGBT philanthropy work, right? But I think that when it comes down to a lot of the messaging that I saw from her growing up, it was always about like empowerment. And I took that and I like, you know, you take what you need and you spit out the bones. And so for me, I was like, she's doing this for black women, she's doing this for black curvy women, and I want to do this for like, at the time, boys like me who like are walking the maneuver in the hoods and the projects, you know, looking the way we're looking and, you know, living in the way that we're living. And she really kind of sort of inspired that. I will say, you know what, there was a point in time where Tyra was a little bit of an inspiration as well because she had the T-Zone. And the T-Zone summer camps were something that I thought that like, I really liked the idea and the model of that. Like being able to get a whole bunch of these like young girls like from the inner city in this place and then telling them that you are fucking beautiful regardless, right? By one of the most beautifully perceived women at the time in the industry. So I like that.
I love that. Okay. So how do people who aren't familiar with the Allow Me movement contribute?
So on my website, hopegiselle.com. On the website, hopegiselle.com.
It's giving me so much RuPaul right now where he keeps plugging available on iTunes.
Look,
it's so much of that.
hopegiselle.com. You will find the Allow Me tab, and on that tab there's a donation button that you can definitely hit. That money is linked to a specific business PayPal account. That money is not linked to my own money. It is open information. You could go in and check. My name is not even on the card, right? My name is on the account so that I can use the card, but it is not on the card. And those funds are specifically allocated. Honestly, I set it up and people might have been donating all these years and I have no idea. So I have to go back in and like check that account. There might be like $10,000 in there that I know nothing about.
Divine order.
Because like honestly, when I say I do most of this stuff out of my own pocket, and I don't expect a lot of people to help a black trans woman who doesn't have HRC or Gilead or GLAD backing her, because there's a lack of trust in the community, rightfully so, because some of y'all ain't right. And you know, it's one of those things where I genuinely do this stuff from like from my gut and from my heart because I did not have that growing up. Like it sucks that I know a lot of people were probably expecting me to say like Laverne or Janet, but like when I was growing up, those women didn't exist, right? Laverne was on, I think The Apprentice or something, or I Want to Work for Diddy or something. But honestly, like her trans conversation didn't really cultivate until I was older and I was already starting my own transition. Right. So for me, I want to be that person. I want to, be that person that does that for somebody else.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure you are. Like you have a heavy following on social media. I believe it's all organic based on what I'm seeing.
Out the muscle.
Yeah, out the mud. I love that expression so much, but some of y'all really be abusing it. Ain't never been in a pond, and some of y'all just abusing out the mud. I hate it here. But either way, so I love that, and I'm wishing you the best with the Allow Me movement. Now, Hope is also an author, the author of Becoming Hope, Removing the Disguise.
Yeah.
Did I get it?
Yes, you got it.
Available on Amazon, Kindle. Girl, plug some more.
Barnes and Noble,
okay.
Walmart's, Target. But if you really want to make sure I get a coin, click the link that is in my bio on Instagram.
Okay.
Right? All of those other things are real cute, but that's for those things. Those are what I like to call validation plugs, right? Like, because people are like, oh, your book, like you wrote a book, where is it?
Where is it?
If I can't get it at whatever, then it's not legit, right? And so those things, it's nice that, you know, that it's there and like you can go to Amazon and get it like, you know, tomorrow. But if you really want to support the artist, like, I'm a self-published person, so it's coming directly from a warehouse. They print my book for me. I pay to have that book printed on demand. I put like down a fee so that whenever, you know, you get a book, it is a fresh book, hot off the presses. They print those things. So please click the link in my bio. My folks over at Book Baby have a warehouse, and while I'm really happy because some people are, you know, some people just don't want to do that. They do want to go to Amazon and kind of like have that verified purchase moment. The book is, I'm super excited, sold out like 5 times in the Amazon warehouse. And that's like a big deal for somebody who is like low-key a nobody, not a bestseller. Like, the fact that it's sold out of the Amazon warehouse 5 times, like, I love y'all. So thank y'all, because those checks be cute.
Yeah, for somebody who's climbing the ranks, because you are nowhere near a nobody. And that's really on period. I had a really tough question, and I'm still, as I'm spitting it out, phrasing it in my mind, but it's a really heavy question. So, like you, I also podcast The Get Right every Sunday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on the Good News Radio Station app. Support Black Bitch. So I had a conversation with the co-host way back when, and we were talking about his lack of understanding of the trans experience in the trans community. And he couldn't necessarily wrap his mind around how someone could not feel like they were in their right body. And for me, being in the spaces that I've been in, whether it's APLA or just like having the friends that I have, I was able to kind of explain, but I feel like I don't want to be representative of the trans community. I mean, even you can be representative of the trans community because so many people have so many different beliefs. But for you specifically, what is your explanation to people that are just like, I don't get how? What? I don't see it. Like, how do you even begin to break that down? It seems so layered.
I know. I think that that's the thing. Like, once you get to a certain level in your transition, you start to realize that you don't owe anybody an explanation for your existence, right? The fact that you don't understand me is not my business. Like, I think that what people just need to really understand is that I don't deserve to die because of that lack of understanding, right? Like, some people don't understand why Asian people eat some of the things that they eat traditionally within their country, but we don't go over there killing them because they eat live octopus. Like, it's just like, oh, I don't get it. Like, you know, we move on to the next, you know, viral video or whatever the case may be. Like, and I think that if we treated people the same way that we treated folks' preference to food, or, you know, the way that we treat, the way that, you know, we walk by folks that we know are doing crack and have children, and we mind our fucking business. Like, mind your business. Like, when you see trans people just existing and living their life, if they not harming you or harming somebody, you know, who can't protect themselves, then allow that person to just be. But I'm no longer justifying my existence for anybody. Like, if you don't get it, so sorry to that man. I don't know that man, but that ain't my business.
Yeah. And I feel like it goes back to like Black people's unspoken burden of educating white people on how to treat us and how we're oppressed and every that. And that's why even when I was asking you the question, I'm like, no, let me just put it out there, because I feel like these conversations are being had in more ignorant settings. And I'm like, if Hope has some gems to add to it, then by all means, but I'm completely with you. Just like, it is what it is. I'm
done with the gem drop, and I think that at this point, there have been so many resources, like since Orange is the New Black, right? Since Laverne dropped on the scene and that conversation started, there have been so many more resources. And I also have my Google It guide. It is also a thing that lives in my Instagram profile that I'm going to start charging y'all bitches for. So if you watch this, get it for free while it's free. But I have a thing called the Google It guide, because I do believe in still giving y'all the education when you need it. But it's one of those things where I have to be mindful that when I'm giving them this education, that it's coming from a place and a source that I trust when I'm not around, right? So a lot of us, even queer people, and even sometimes Black people, be like, Google that shit, you know? But like, sometimes you can Google with the bias. So if I'm a hotep and I really low-key don't fuck with this shit, but I'm humoring you with the Google, I'm going to lean more towards the Google sites that say the things that I want them to say.
Yeah.
So I need to be mindful that when I'm telling a hotep to Google it, right, that I'm also giving him a resource to start from. Because if you go down a rabbit hole with these links, they're going to lead you into more links that I trust. If you go down a rabbit hole with your own links from Dr. Kumar, I don't know where you're going to end up.
Or a Breakfast Club interview with Flame Monroe. And that's no shade, but I did peep that. And I'm not here to bash a bitch. I'm really not, but this is my platform, so I'm going to speak freely. I just, knowing you and having the conversations that I've had and having the conversations I've had, I'm like, what I don't want, Flame Monroe is probably the biggest current mainstream that's a lie. He is the biggest B-list representation of the trans community. I would give it to like a Laverne or like a Amaya Scott, right? Angelica Ross, right. The Postcast, etc., etc. But I feel like Flame Monroe has gotten this platform where he's I don't even know how to properly address.
Honestly, it's a they. I mean, well, let me be very clear. Marcus goes by a multitude of different pronouns and doesn't want to be like boxed in. Flame is, a caricature who garners female pronouns, but they're not necessary.
Got it.
So I don't think that there's a pronoun that can be used that would offend them.
Got it. And I say all that to say that don't let one specific person, don't even let Hope be representative of the trans community, just like you wouldn't let me be representative of the gay black community. There's a bunch of us, especially in Atlanta. So like, do your due diligence and get the information that you want or claim to want. So back to your book. What did writing this book do for you?
Ooh, it forced me to look at a bunch of stuff. I will say that, like, I had to really unpack a lot of things in a very succinct way. And I did that on purpose because a lot of people are like, oh my God, like it's only like 100 pages. Well, actually it's 95 pages. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of folks were like, why is it so short? Like I really wish you would have gone into detail about X, Y, and Z. And I wanted the book to be accessible. And so like the hardest or the writing, it was making sure that everybody who fucks with me could read it and not only just purchase it. Like I hate when people like purchase things because they love you, but they don't have any use for it, right? And so I have a lot of like the grassroots girls, the working girls, the working class girls, right? Moms, and like all of these folks are like busy and on the go and whatever. And so I didn't want to have this novel. And then I have a bunch of like high school students and people who don't really read on a regular basis. And so what does it look like, wanting to support Hope, but it's like this 200-page memoir of things. And so I figured if I make it 100 pages or less, that'll be something that a person who reads will read in 4 hours, a person who doesn't read will get through in 2 days.
Yes.
And so that was like the really tough part because I wanted to be as descriptive as possible without like making it something that was just so learned and so whatever and just like above people. I wanted everybody to feel seen with the words that were on the pages. So that was a thing. But the next book, which is Until I Met Black Men, that book is a lot more detailed. And that one drops this August. I don't know what day, don't ask me what day. Pre-sale is available on my website, which is in the link in my bio, Giselle.com. But pre-sale is available for that one, but Until Black Men is definitely going to be a little bit more of a read, though. That's going to be a hefty one because it's a little bit more detailed. And people think that it's a male bashing book, but it's not. But it is, but it's not.
Yeah, I mean, we ultimately love men.
Ultimately.
We love you.
On Tuesday.
But some things need to be said, and that's point blank period. So if you think you fall into this category, get the book. So let me ask you, what do you think the difference is in audience between Becoming Hope, Removing the Disguise, and Until I Met Black Men? Like, who would be the reader of a Becoming Hope versus Until I Met Black Men?
So Becoming Hope was written for my babies. It was written for my babies. It was written for my girls in the struggle of the transition. And it was also written as a resource for like parents and people who don't get it, but like they kind of want to have. A lot of what I was hearing from folks on the outskirts of the community was that like, we always see like the what happened, but like what happened before, right? And then even when we see these bigoted conversations, it's always like, well, what happened to you before? You must have been molested, and like, none of those things happened to me. And so like, this is like a precursor in my particular opinion so that people can have a story that does say, bitch, ain't nothing happened to me, this is just who the fuck I is. That's like, like, don't be trying to project onto me, right? So I think that that's the audience for that book. Now, the Until I Met Black Men book, this is a little bit more of a grown and sexy audience because this is the book that's gonna make you think. And it makes you think from a bunch of different perspectives about the ways in which you, as a black person, most likely a black woman or a black femme-affirming person, the way that we maneuver men and the way that like men show up in our lives in a bunch of different ways, right? Like, so I start off at the relationship that I had with the first man of my life, who wasn't my father, but my grandfather, and the way that that looked, and then like maneuvering the relationship with my father, and then like maneuvering worldly relationships with black men in my community, because I grew up in the projects, right? Like, so what does that look like? The black teachers that I had growing up, and like my first love interest, and like how those things shaped up and like helped to form the woman that y'all see today. For those of y'all that's nosy enough and know what it is, yes, Tarzan is in the book. Yes, the lion is in the book. Don't ask no more questions. They're in the book. And they both know that they're in the book.
Yeah, I saw you talking about it. I didn't dive too deeply because I'm just like, niggas come and go, so I was just like, it's not a point of interest for me in particular, but I do see that a lot of people ask you about that when I'm on your live and stuff. It's like you always have to address them like, wow, the girls really are shamelessly nosy.
They don't give a fuck. Like, when I say they don't give a flying one. But also, I mean, I can't act like I didn't attribute to that because I'm very open. Or I think that a lot of people think that I'm a lot more open than I actually am. People think that like I'm giving them the whole thing when really it's like I'm giving you the peon of what's really happening. Unless you're on my Patreon, then you get a little bit more. Link in the bio.
I'm disgusted. Once again, cut the camera.
But like, I mean, I try to be as open as possible, like as open as I feel comfortable to do. But like, people will take that shit and ride with it, and like they will take like a thing that you said that one time and like be like, no, because you let men do this, that, and the third. And I'm gonna address that in the book as well, like the idea that black women aren't allowed to be vulnerable about the ways in which we allow men to show up in our lives in the same way that like Karens or Beckys are, right? Like, it's assumed that they're going to allow men to do certain things, whereas black women are always assumed to have to like have this facade of strength and not being the dumb bitch. So this book addresses a lot of things.
Okay. Well, speaking about men, I wanted to get your take on the Jimmy Smacks situation. And when I say that, so for those of you that don't know, Jimmy Smacks is like probably the top performer on OnlyFans, and most recently he had a bit of a scandal because he was caught giving fellatio to a trans woman. Not necessarily caught because he posted it on his social media.
Thank you.
Yeah, he posted it on his social media, and I think the biggest part of the scandal is the backlash that he received from like friends and people that are just spectators, women who feel like their men are just above doing the stuff that they are definitely doing behind closed doors. It was just a lot. So first, what was your take when you initially saw that story unfold?
Honestly, I was minding my business. I was minding my whole business. Like, when I saw that, I caught it at the tail end. Like, when everything was low-key starting to die down. I'm in a whole different space. If it's not about these babies, if it's not about my own personal bag, if it's not about elevation of my own stuff, I am like, and that's why like y'all have started to see like a difference in the way that I put out my content. You get the podcast on Monday, you get allyship tips on Tuesday. Every day afterwards is what is me living my life, because I don't want people to feel like they can pigeonhole me into this activism thing, as if I'm not a sexual being, as if I'm not a sister, as if I'm not, a daughter. Like, I'm a functioning human being. And last year I ran myself wrecked, like trying to be that person, and especially trying to be that person for free, and it serves you not, right? And so with this Jimmy Smack situation, great for him, and shame on the people who can't understand that like who he sleeps with has no bearing on you or your womanhood. And the existence of trans women does not negate your cisness or your ability to also be a woman. So I don't understand like the whatever, but I think that there are bigger situations to talk about, right? Like, we got Biden and Kamala in the fucking office, and they're doing all of these things that people are like, oh, they're like helping black trans people, or they're helping trans people or LGBT people, and it's like, that's cute and all, but I'm also black though. So all of the things that they're doing for the LGBT community is like great, because they don't want y'all to come for their neck. But when we're talking about what's going to happen to black boys in certain neighborhoods, when we're talking about the abuse of the black girls who do have to be on the beat or the strip, like all of these things, like, we still have white people that are white supremacists that are on the police force, and none of that is being addressed, right? And so while we're talking about a trans, you know, uplift on the band, that's cool, but y'all are going to send a bunch of people, primarily a bunch of trans men, into a space that has been legally lifted, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily safe. So where are the protections that they added on top of the ban that was lifted, right? And I think that we are just blinded by a bunch of things, like the Jimmy Smack situation, when we should be really questioning how our government is going to protect us as queer people, and especially if you're a dual person who is queer and black.
Absolutely. Intersectionality is a thing.
Definitely.
And the reason why I asked you about the Jimmy Smack situation, not only because it's trending, well, by the time this is edited, she'll be old tea, probably water, but that's not the point. Either way, I asked because it was the shaming that he was receiving from his alleged friends and things of that nature. And, you know, I know that there are a lot of men that do have a preference for trans women and are engaging sexually with trans women, but the backlash that he was receiving, it made me wonder, like, how is this representative of the trans community that is constantly being killed and abused? And I see you talk about it all the time. The numbers are constantly rising. I can't even keep tabs at this point. But how is the backlash that we saw for Jimmy representative of the overall problem with the killing of the trans community?
The fact that a lot of black women don't feel like they have anything to do with it is like the main problem. And then when we address black cis women with that, they're just like, what? We ain't the one stabbing y'all, but you might as well. Like, you're the one, you know, antagonizing these men until they feel the need to do something. It's kind of like the Big Brother effect. It's just like, I'm gonna go get my big brother. I'm gonna go get my big brother. I'm gonna go get my big brother. And even though your big brother don't want nothing to do with it because he knows that you're a brat, after a while he gonna do something because it's just like, let me appease you so you leave me the fuck alone. And black women don't understand. And I say black women because I'm speaking from a black gaze. I am a black woman. I engage with the black community. So I'm not blaming it all on black women and saying that white women or, you know, women from other races don't do this. But I don't know that because my name ain't Rebecca and I don't live in Beverly Hills.
We're speaking from home.
You're right. I'm speaking from home. I'm not angling it at a certain race of women, but I don't be fucking with them like that, so I don't know.
Right.
But it's one of those things where I think that this was the first time that publicly, right, other people, and I don't want to say publicly because they have us on Twitter and stuff all the time, but this is the first time where like everybody kind of like tuned in real quick.
Yeah, it was a moment.
It was a moment. And so it's like people got to see that black women be out here antagonizing, because at first it was very much so like a publicity thing. He was pubbing it like he pubs all of his other content.
Right. And
then it becomes this thing where he feels like I have to retract the statement. And a lot of it is because of the fact that black women was just like, but you're not, and you can't be, and da 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 da. And after a while, because men are not groomed the same way that women are, a lot of men don't like the idea of judgment because they don't have to endure judgment in the way that women have to endure judgment. And so they fold and they crack and they do things like kill the girls, denounce their, you know, love for the girls and all of those things. And black women do not see how they contribute to that. And it's just like, at this point, like, if y'all didn't catch that tea from the outside looking in, I don't know what to tell you.
That was so good. I really don't have much to contribute to that. I just think that accountability needs to be a thing because I feel like it's very much like let me point it out. And it's what baffles me is when black women will say, oh, I can't have a bisexual man because I'm not gonna have competition with another man. Sweetie, if it ain't me, it's another woman.
So
it could be anybody. It's fair game. When Cashflow said these niggas is for everybody, she meant that. That was a thing. So I really can't. That was the Big Brother effect was perfect. But enough about the kids. More to you. So now I want to, for the last bit of this interview, I want to do my segment. Tell me all about it. So I'm gonna ask you just anything.
Okay.
So the first question I want to ask you is top 3 albums that you find yourself listening to at any given time.
Miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
Of course.
Always. Definitely, I'm gonna say Lemonade. And I always tend to go back to, see, I got like more singles, but I always tend to go back to Brandy, Human.
Really? Was it right here departed?
It does something to, not the singles, it's the other songs, the ones that people are not paying attention to. Those are like some of my favorites, especially because at that point in my life, I think I needed just like pick-me-ups. And there's a lot of pick-me-ups on that album while also like reminding herself that she was human. Because I think that was like the era of like her trying to come back and do like the mainstream thing. And then just realizing like, this shit is not for me. I'm a singer, and if they don't like the singing, then I'm not gonna like fall into the whole like machine of things.
Because she has a core audience at this point. Brandy doesn't need to.
She doesn't, yeah. And I think that Human was like that space where she was like, I'm gonna try to do it for half of the album, but y'all still owe me 6 songs where I can do me.
Right.
And that's what it was giving.
Okay, I love that. Shout outs to your silhouette challenge. Also, my friend Dwayne told me, he was like, tell her she looks good as fuck, da-da-da-da-da. Meanwhile, I was like, no, I'm not telling her nothing because I tried to do it for myself last night and I looked like a praying mantis and I didn't like that.
Oh my God.
So I was like, I'm not complimenting nobody. I'm not watching no more videos. I'm blocking the whole hashtag. So shout out to that because you did eat it up. Now that I'm in a better space.
Mentally, I'm in a better space.
So that leads me to ask you, when Hope is feeling sexy, when Hope has a man that she's pulling in, what is your freakum dress?
Ooh.
What is your freakum dress? Now, granted, it doesn't have to be a dress. It could be very much just because I'm eating.
It's a whole thing. So I'm very much so like real Carrie Bradshaw about it. It's a little black dress of some sort. And it usually I'm a really big sleeve girl or like an off the shoulder moment girl.
I can see that.
And so it's very much so like something like right thigh length that rides up on purpose. Something that usually has like a little V cut because I love my boobs. Kind of moment, and I have to smell nice.
Yeah. You should always aim to smell nice.
I have to smell nice. There has to be like, some sort of like thing happening on like at all times. But that's like that's the moment. I do a little hair down, push to the side kind of vibe. Very little makeup because if I'm feeling that kind of sexy, you're not gonna mess up your face.
Right.
So we just gonna not do one. How about that?
Right.
And I'm a sucker for a pump. Like I'm a sucker for like a good pump.
The fact that you sat through this interview with the nastiest of a stiletto. The nastiest of a stiletto.
They're comfortable though.
Are they really?
They really are. Like, I mean, I think if your foot works for the shoe, then it's a comfortable shoe. But if you have like more of like a wide or whatever, like I do admit, like my socates are a little bit different, but that's because the arch is so high. But like the Pagals are a little bit less of an arch, and like I can walk in these all day. They're so comfortable.
They're everything.
Yeah.
I'm living. Okay. So next question is, what's the biggest insecurity you've had to fight to be the person you are today?
These things.
Really?
I used to, and it's crazy because like people who just started following me would be like, "Bitch, that's a lot. You always got your shoulders out, right?" But it was a huge thing because
wait, your shoulders or your boobs?
No.
I got this.
My boobs are fine. Like these are fine.
Okay.
But it's like it was my shoulders because like for the longest like. Honestly, I would never whenever people would come for me or say like mean things online, it was never like about my face or like about anything else. It was always like, oh, like his shoulders wide as fuck. Like, and I was like, what the fuck? Or like, oh, he's built like a linebacker. And so like that was like a really big insecurity because I was like, I mean, I think that my jawline is kind of square. Y'all ain't gonna talk about that, but like it was just like it was like, and it didn't matter like the attacks, and it was so crazy to me because I was so focused on like facial things and like all of that stuff, like doing my makeup a certain way, and it never came up. Like, and I was just like, I feel like I look like a whole drag queen in this video, but y'all are like focused on these shoulders. I don't get it, and so
it'd be the weirdest things
that I wasn't even focused on, right? And so for a while. I was really cognizant of like the way that my shoulders showed up in videos and in pictures and like my angles and things. And like, I mean, I still posture to it now, but I'm like, I really, as y'all know, like I'm always in an off the shoulder moment somewhere. But I don't know, like that was like a really big insecurity. And I think, because I cut you off before you asked me the full question.
No, go ahead.
Was like, to get to who I am now. I don't have a lot of insecurities as it pertains to my performance and my job. It was a lot of insecurities about like me, like when the cameras are off. Those were like a lot of those things that like I was dealing with. But like doing the job and doing the work, like getting on camera, or like the becoming of me, like I never had insecurities around that.
I love that, yeah. Hope is phenomenal. Last piece of advice that I would love for you to give the kids is, what is the best piece of advice that you can give to up-and-coming creatives, both young and old, who are just like, I don't know where to begin, I don't think anyone is checking for this content, why could I be the person to make it to the top? What's special about me? What advice do you have for them?
Do your research. I think that one of the biggest lessons that I learned and that the community had to teach me the hard way, so I want you to learn the hard way, is that the more you know, the more knowledgeable about a subject that you are, the more qualified people believe that you are to teach that subject and to actually be not, you know, to be the person that we come to for those things. And the best way to read a bitch is to always know more than they do. So it's just, you know, have faith in your craft, but also trust yourself enough to know that you don't know everything, and that research is always going to be an inevitable step in all of the things that you do, no matter what you're talking about. So be a person that is confident in your craft, but also confident enough in yourself to know that you don't know everything, but you're going to do your damnedest to make sure that you know enough when you're speaking about it.
I hope y'all heard that. I mean, it's hard out here. Like, I can't express it enough. I think a lot of times people think once you hit a certain point, like, Hope is verified on IG. So maybe you guys are thinking, there's no way she's anxious about her craft. There's no way she has any insecurities. We see the silhouette challenge. We see the work happening. There's no way she's anxious about anything. Creativity, or just like human development, is a continuous process. You never fully shed that stuff. Like, it kind of, you learn coping tactics, but you never lose that human vulnerability type of trait. So I just wanted to get your input about that. But you are so amazing, and thank you. So I love you. Thank you so much for doing this. Like, y'all don't understand. It's been so long since I've seen Hope. Like, it was, I think the last time I saw you, we were at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah.
No, was it Buffalo? It was Hooters.
Oh my God.
It was Hooters.
It was Hooters.
By your house. It was Hooters.
I miss LA.
I know.
And I miss my house. I was like in such a dope location. Like, I was right.
Such a good location.
It was
But when you told me that when a major event happened, you couldn't come in front of that and they blocked you off, I'm like, how do you even?
You could not function. I'll never. They asked me for my ID to get back into my house one day. It was crazy.
Okay. So if you're looking to move to the LA area, maybe Hollywood Boulevard.
Maybe, but not if you like. If you're a person that got things to do and places to go, I would recommend like staying too close to TLC. I lived right behind it, and like
Legit.
Oscars, Grammys, whatever award show was there, bitch, you are locked in your house until it's over.
Yeah, it's disgusting. So Hope, where can we keep up with you on social media?
Everything is at Hope Giselle. Literally, no funny spelling. So it's all HOPE, GISELLE, at Hope Giselle, everywhere. I don't like making people like sift through different names for different things. And if you get confused or flustered, you can always go to hopegiselle.com. And everything is also there as well. So you will never miss me.
I don't gotta ask about the website. You can plug that shit more than a Glade plugin. Okay, so y'all got it. Just rewind the clip back a few times,
Right.
and you'll hear it.
A couple times.
Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this, Hope.
Anytime. And thank you for having me. Y'all, like, make sure y'all are subscribing and watching and liking and commenting and sharing. Honestly, just for like an analytics tip, if you really fuck with Eric, like, just run the comments up. Like, even if you are just like posting stupid ass emojis, those things make his content go up, and it makes more people see them because it makes people feel like it's being talked about. So even if you just gotta put like a whole bunch of emojis under this video, like, those are things that help with analytics. So if you fuck with him, just run them comments up.
She preaches a good word. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this edition of Tell Me About It, and I will catch y'all next time.